of the wines, we have a huge amount of diversity. There's some little favorites for those who love their stickies. Chateau Roumier Lacoste, personal favorite for mine. I love Sauternes. A nice diversity of sparkles. So we have great ones like Paul Roger Champagne, which is beautiful, all the way down to things like a Method Ancestral, which is again gorgeous, but a very, very different style is what we're looking for. And then moving on into the white wines. These are the non-Chardonnay white wines. And again, trying to make it easier for the customer, trying to work from lighter and crisper to fuller and richer. So if you're coming in, even though these are lots of different wines, Sancerre from France, which is Sauvignon Blanc. There's some beautiful Arnase coming from the Langhe region in Piemonte. Jumping over to things like École doing their luminescence, their Sauvignon Blanc Semillon blend, a very unusual and rare from Nikolaev, the famous Austrian producer, their Muscatella, for example. So a real spread of white wines. Moving into some of the reds, again, trying to go from that sort of lighter, drier style of wine to fuller and richer. So Syrahs, Grenaches, Zinfandels. One of the things I've tried to do to make life generally easier for everybody, on the labels, it tells you what the grape variety is as well. So therefore, if you're trying to find a Syrah and you're not that well versed on something like France, then you'll see which wines coming out of France are Syrahs, is what we're looking at. Then moving into Italy, so the same approach taken, looking at what the grape variety is on each of these labels. So there's some beautiful wines like some Brunello di Montalcinos coming from Tuscany, basically the Sangiovese grape. Looking at some beautiful Barberas coming out of Piemonte from Vietti, is what we're talking about. And then some really fun, interesting Southern Italian wines. From Cotonara. This is from Mount Etna in Sicily. The grape is the beautiful Nerello Mescalese, which I love to pronounce. How can you not love to pronounce the words Nerello Mescalese? Moving on to Pinots, again, that lighter to fuller, again doing a huge amount of sort of variety. Very, very sort of fan of the Hirsch vineyards coming out of the Sonoma coast. Looking at those sort of styles, but then also looking at places like New Zealand, Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, playing around with Stoller coming out of Willamette Valley is what we're talking about. And then because I am a Burgundy wine educator, as part of my thing, I have to also have some interesting Burgundies. So one of the larger producers, Bouchard doing their famous Homard, and then also playing around with some of the smaller producers like Regis Bouvier, which is brought in by Kermit Lynch, which is always very impressive. And then the final on this side is the Cabernets, and again, similar style of what we did before, diversity in the regions, and again, trying to go from dry to lighter to smoother and fuller. And again, what you'll have seen on every one of these sort of rows is trying to do what I classify as good example of the region, good quality, and generally a more of a family sort of orientated winery. I have no objection to the bigger boys, but I just think somebody else can deal with those, and I will stick with the more sort of interesting boutique style of wines. That doesn't mean they're more expensive. It just means that they're more family orientated, and often I think can be a better value, to be honest. And again, playing around, we've got some Coonawarra Cabernets, we've got some sort of Cedar Knoll vineyards coming out of Napa Valley. We play around with Washington State, with Amavie coming out of Walla Walla, which I'm a big fan of. Moving into things like Felino in Argentina is what you're talking. And so some of you may recognize those labels. But again, trying to do a sort of a diversity. And then into the black box. So we have all these name tags on the exterior of the black box. These are all the wines which are generally over $100, and they are stored in here in these temperature controlled conditions. So if we open up and turn the light on, you'll see that we have this full sort of wine cellar. And so things like a nice bottle of 2012 Chateau Palmer, retailing for about $300. Perfectly stored condition. So if you come in today, it's going to be perfectly stored. If you come in 6 months' time and we still have it, hopefully we won't, it'll also be perfectly stored. Same with the Chardonnays. So Arista, their Russian River Valley Chardonnay, again, being stored in perfect conditions. Here's the way to look at it. Also some lovely Duckhorn. Their Three Palms Vineyard 2016, so the latest release. Their Merlot, stunning wine, kept in perfect conditions. That's what we're looking at. So we have Syrahs in here, we have Pinots in here, Cabernets, Chardonnays, the Stickies. Again, we have some, again, I'm a sweet fan, so Royal Tokai, beautiful, sweet white wine. So that hopefully gives you a general overview of what we're doing when it comes to the wines.